This is the Tack on Pulse, and today we're going to be talking about Anson Mount and Star Trek Strange New Worlds after an interview where he talked about the genres of Star Trek.
And at this point, Star Trek is almost its own genre, and I think you have to study it if you want to do it
You
correctly.
studied it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I was a fan. I grew up watching TOS.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
So in this video, Anson Mount really showed, to be honest, how cool he is. And how much he really cares about Star Trek. He actually talked about being a fan from a child. He obviously has a really good knowledge of Star Trek. He also talked about sort of really humbly about how, it doesn't matter how hard they work, the crew, the people, that really put this all together work infinitely harder. And it's physical labour as well. It's properly difficult. They turn up and they pretend to be someone and have fun. But the crew are really working hard. To be honest, Anson Mount came over just as you would want to in this interview with Michael Rosenbaum on Inside of You. And I've always loved him. I always think he's very, very passionate about Star Trek. And that's all we want, really, from people that are appearing in it. Not that it particularly matters if they're not a Star Trek fan. They're actors at the end of the day. But it is nice, and it does add something to the sort of, I don't know, the fan connection to it when somebody appearing in it is as big a fan as you are. But he did say something that I found difficult, and to be honest, underlined my problem with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I'm going to repeat this before anybody goes, oh, hate clicker, hate clicker, hate clicker. When Strange New Worlds is good, it's brilliant. I mean, the crossover episode with Lower Decks is still one of my favourite episodes. I mean, I could put that up against any TNG episode, to be honest. I adored that episode. And there are other episodes in there I've adored. But there are some episodes I've hated. And the musical really does just scream at why I don't like this series at times. And Anson Mount mentioned it in this interview.
We keep pushing ourselves in terms of how out on the limb can we get. And Akiva Goldsman and Henry Myers, the two showrunners, they keep saying Star Trek can be a lot of things. So our conversations about future episodes begin usually in genre. And we talk, what genre we've not done? What do you want to? What genre do have you always wanted to do? And it's a really smart way to work because that you're especially towards the end of a season, you're really trying to still tap into your cast's excitement.
So in there, he talks about how the first thing they talk about is the genre. Earlier in the interview, actually said Star Trek is virtually a genre on its own now, which I would take to mean that it's such a focused thing. Such a a show that really is identifiable, except for Section 31, that wasn't, but it's so identifiable just from its style and its the actors that have appeared in it are iconic over the years. It's become something really special on its own. It's not sci-fi anymore in some ways, it's Star Trek. But he did talk about how when they're creating a new episode, that the first thing they think of about is the genre. What genre do they want this one to be in? It's something that Akiva Goldsman and even our brilliant leader in charge of Secret Hideout, Alex Kurtzman, have talked about in the past. That they can really play with genres within Star Trek. I completely disagree. I think that when you've only got 10 episodes of something, it should be Star Trek first. And that's really what they should be thinking about before they think of anything else. How is this Star Trek? How is this going to be boldly going where no man has gone before? How is it going to explore something either physically or within, the way we think? That, for me, is the first thing they should think about, not what genre this is going to be. He sort of mentioned that, it's the actors, what sort of thing would the actors like to do, and the creators, the writers, etc. For me, the actors and the writers, etc., might be having a whale of a time. But us fans sometimes sit there scratching our heads going, what the hell is this? I'll focus on the musical because I think that is the best example throughout the quirkier episodes we've had of Star Trek over the 2 seasons so far, and that we're definitely getting in the 3rd season. Because that was the most extreme example of this. And look, it seemed to me, or it felt like to me, the writers sort of thought, I'd love to write a musical, I'd love to write the music or get involved in writing the lyrics, and I'd love to, come up with a reason that doesn't make any sense for why Star Trek could work in a musical, why it would, fit within Star Trek. It didn't. It made no sense. But they tried. And the actors are sort of like, I'd love to sing, and, that sounds like a whale of a time, a bit of fun. Now, I remember like Buffy the Vampire Slayer doing this, but that was part of like a 24 episode run where I think actually doing something to excite the actors as much as anything else is probably quite important, because it is a hard slog to do 24 episodes. And don't get me wrong, they work damn hard. He talks about in this interview about they've got to do a 12-hour gap between sort of filming. So they start a week at like 5 a.m. and by the end of the week they're working at like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, but then they have to work till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not easy to do these shows, but I think doing 24 episodes over like 8 months is possibly more difficult. I mean, they were getting their scripts the day before on TNG and then expecting to do it the next day. So I think it's different at very least. If not, I think it's hard to judge what's harder, but it's different. But when you've got 24 episodes of something, I think that's important. When you're doing 10, I don't think so much. I don't think the writers, etc., should be really going, okay, what will excite us? What can we do different? What genre can we explore this time? They should be doing Star Trek first, and then maybe playing with things later. Again, we're getting a murder mystery episode in this season, and it looks like it's going to be good. Don't get me wrong, I actually think it's going to be fun. And if that was the only sort of quirky episode we were getting this season, I would say brilliant, that's great. But it looks like, again, we're getting at least 3. There's going to be one where the crew are turned into Vulcans, at very least, and I'm guaranteeing there'll be something they're keeping behind closed doors that will be announced at some point, like they did with the Subspace Rhapsody. To me, if you're doing 30% of your season run mixing with genres and playing with genres, and I actually think even more than that, they've mixed in sort of like horror episodes with the Gorn, that they've done very much like an Aliens movie. So you could even argue that those are sort of mixing with genres. I just don't think it feels like Star Trek. I loved the quirky episodes in TNG and stuff. I did. But the bulk of the episodes were exploring strange new worlds. The original series played with, commenting on culture and community and, even like racism, etc. But the bulk of the episodes were Star Trek, exploring the universe, exploring humanity, exploring whatever. I just don't think Strange New Worlds does that enough. When it does it really well. But this whole philosophy of exploring different genres just doesn't work for me. And as I say, Anson Mount here underlines that is one of the main priorities they go for when they're thinking up the next episode. And that's a shame for me. But get into the comments, tell me what you think. Does Strange New Worlds do this? Or am I just, nitpicking? And do you agree with me, basically, that when Strange New Worlds is brilliant, it's brilliant. But when it's bad, it's really bad. Get into the comments and tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel and get to see a lot of these videos up to 24 hours before everybody else sometimes. Go check that out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.